back with you, and this is our third episode, episode 3, which I am calling No Chance for Syndication. You know, I used to love shows like The Brady Bunch, Three's Company, Gilligan's Island, Beverly Hills 90210, Saved by the Bell. I could keep going on, but I'll stop with those. Why? Well, I don't have to used to love them anymore, since each of these shows have gotten numerous leases on life through syndication. Syndicated basically means that a show or a television program is being shown on different stations or networks than they were first shown as the program or initially shown. I can catch any of these past favorite shows on the myriad of cable channels available. Now you might be asking yourself, what in the world does this have to do with my personal life and endurance racing? Well, just stick with me for a moment. For some, I'm sure that the notion of only living once is a good soundbite, but it truly comes from this belief. I remember when YOLO, or Y-O-L-O, was a popular fad. People wearing hats and stuff showcasing this acronym, you only live once. Again, thanks for the obvious, but again, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Unfortunately, I learned this reality much younger than I would have preferred. Having lost both parents at a young age, I knew long ago, as I know now, that I must live, teach, race, parent, love each day like it's my last. In fact, this notion is what brought me into endurance racing in the first place. I remember telling my wife one summer that I was going to raise money for children with autism while doing one of the most daunting races out there, the Escape from Alcatraz Triathlon. While not one of the longer ones like an Ironman, it certainly is one of the more brutal as far as conditions, especially for the swim. Now keep in mind, up until this epiphany, I had not raced further than a few sprint triathlons, which are the shorter ones. Sprint swims are usually around 500 meters. Alcatraz, if you swim it correctly and with the current, it can be a little over about 1.5 miles. However, you can swim much, much longer, as I did, if you allow the current to pull you towards the Golden Gate Bridge. Anyway, our conversation went basically like this. So my wife said, "No, you're not." And I said, "Yes, I am." And she said, "You're crazy." And I said, "Yep." And she said, "There's big sharks in there." And I said, "Yeah, but only the cuddly ones." At this point, she gave up. She knows when my mind is made up, I'm going to achieve or try to achieve whatever I set out to do. Heck, after Alcatraz, I let it be known that I was going to do an Ironman. Never mind that I had never run more than 8 miles in one jaunt, and that was the time I did Alcatraz. That was the furthest I'd ever run up to that point. To me, these distances were all just logistics, which gave me a headache. I didn't want to think too much into it. Now I've done 3 Ironman races. Why? Simply because I said I was going to do it. As I noted, I learned at a young age, we get one shot at this thing called life here on Earth. I don't see life as a spectator sport. I see it as something to grab by the throat, metaphorically, and squeeze as much out of it as I can in the time that I'm given here. Our time here isn't infinite, it's finite, and that's an important point or distinction to make. I mean, seriously, if I could afford it, I'd be attempting to climb Mount Everest at some point while I'm still here on Earth, but that's quite an expensive adventure, and that ain't going to happen anytime soon, unfortunately. Doesn't mean I don't want to do it. Now, I know that unlike my favorite television shows, we do not get a chance to return to syndication once our show is cut from prime time, if you will. This ain't some dress rehearsal. This life is live and in your face. Do with it what you will. For me, I'm jumping in headfirst to whatever endeavor I put my mind to. In the classroom, this notion ties with how I view my students who are entrusted in my care. My students get me for one academic year. I owe it to them to make that year a special one. More than likely, they'll never have a chance to have me as their teacher again. And I take this very seriously in the fact that I put my heart and soul into every lesson and learning experience that we worked on together. Imagine with me, if you will, one little visual. Imagine that all your students are wearing white t-shirts one day. Now, imagine that you draw a black line on each of your students' shirts with a black Sharpie marker. That mark is never going to go away. It may fade a little over time, but its memory will always be there. That's how I look at my school year with my students. It's our one shot at greatness together, and I'll be damned if we aren't going to make the most of it. Remember, life doesn't take attendance. You either show up and live, or you don't.